Welcome back here on Coffee Talk, presented by Village Inn. Don't forget, 5 locations in Wichita, plus you can get a free slice of pie with a purchase at any of the locations. And joining us is the voice of the San Jose Barracuda, who are in the midst of a playoff hunt right now in the American Hockey League. Thanks so much for taking time to visit with me.
And thank you, Malsey. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
How's everything going so far? You guys are in a pretty good spot, right?
Yeah, we're in a great spot. It's been interesting lately. We've been totally decimated by the injury bug up at the forward position. So we lost Ethan Cardwell, Cam Lund, both out for the year. Lund was a second rounder of the Sharks a couple of years ago. This is his first season of pro. He was our all-star replacement, and his first game back from the all-star game, he ends up basically losing an edge, falling into the boards. He's out for the year. So just kind of a fluke deal. Ethan Cardwell, upper body injury, same type of thing. Didn't have a fluke injury, but it's just something he's dealt with for a while. So they decided just to make the call to end his season and get it all repaired and get him fixed up for next year. So those were two. Philip Beestead, who's been really, really good for us, a first-round pick of the Sharks a few years ago. He's in his second season in the AHL. He's taken his game to a totally different level. He's been outstanding this year. He missed 5 games, I think it was. He was supposed to go to the All-Star game. He gets hurt. So we had no Beestead, no Lund, no Cardwell. We're out our other top center and Colin White, a veteran player who's played a lot in the NHL. So it's been crazy. All of a sudden, in basically a week and a half span, we lost 5 or 6 forwards. But the team just keeps rolling. They keep finding ways to get it done. And right in the mix. I think we're in third right now in the division. So the top 7 teams make the division. And kind of trying to hunt down the top 2 teams right now. We're right on the heels of both Colorado and Ontario with some games in hand. So in a great spot, despite some of the injuries, the team just continues to roll along here.
You guys have had a plethora of guys sent down here, and then they ended up going back up there. How have they looked so far since being recalled?
Yeah, it's been really impressive what some of the guys who have come up and been able to kind of assimilate with the team quickly. Kyle Kronkovic is the first one that comes to mind. I think he had 6 games in the AHL prior to this season. I didn't anticipate him really playing, to be honest, just with the depth at the forward position, but injuries, and he finds himself in a pretty vital role on the team's fourth line. And it's not just that he's playing a checking role; they're rolling all 4 lines, and he's been an impact player. He did great assist in a win that we had on Saturday, a comeback win where he strips the D-man, a former first-round pick, and Maverick Lamoureux behind the net, strips the puck from him, centers it in front, and Anthony Vincent, who's kind of a hard-nosed forward for us, who just does everything. He agitates the opponent. He can chip in from time to time with offense and is just kind of an engine for the team. He ends up bearing it. So simple plays. He's an undersized guy, as you know, but he's got a tenaciousness to him. I think he's got to compete to him. He's got some skill too. They don't ask him to put up a lot of points with our team, but he has it in his arsenal. So I've been really impressed by Kyle in particular, but Matt Davis got his first AHL start for us on Sunday. I thought there was some nerves maybe to his game, but he made just an incredible back post save in the second period on Andrew Agozzino, who happened to be our former captain. So I thought there were certainly some moments that he can build off of. Guys are stepping up and they're taking advantage of their opportunity.
Can you touch base with us on Donovan Hoole and Lucas Van Roboys? How are they playing so far at this point?
Yeah, they've been great. We had them last year for the entire year, and they just know what they are. They're straight line players. They're going to get in on the forecheck. They're going to play with pace. They're going to agitate. They're going to get under the opposition's skin. And they just elevate, in my opinion, elevate the overall pace to the entire team with the energy that they bring night in and night out. And Donovan has been elevated. I think they had him on the second line the last couple of games. So, he's played the fourth line. He's been all the way up to the second line. He did that last year for us too. And you felt bad for those two because they spent the entire season last year in the AHL, and then they find themselves playing for Wichita to start the year. And I think they took a great approach with it. They understood the situation, but it's still hard for a player where you spend a full season in the AHL and then you find yourself in a lower level. So yeah, they've been great. They've just fit right back in, and what they provide, I think, can't be overstated. I mean, they've just been impact players for this team. And you talk about all the prospects, and there's a lot of them, but you need guys like Donovan Hoole and Lucas Van Roboys to be able to step in and provide something different. And that's an energy, and that's a physicality. And so, yeah, they've been great since they've come back, and they've been impact players for this team.
You mentioned Lucas and Anthony Vincent. They sound like the same player. I mean, they like to agitate. Lucas
Yes.
was doing that down here.
Lucas, he plays a certain style, and those actually three played together a ton last year. They were a line for a good chunk of the season, and they all kind of understand their role. They aren't going to play outside of the confines of their abilities. They understand that their role is to play hard, to forecheck hard, to again agitate, to get other teams off their game. You could have a lot of skilled players and not be a successful group if you don't have the balance. Not everybody can be a Ferrari, right? You need some pickup trucks in the mix too. And those guys have been great. And it's funny you mentioned that because they have similar games. Lucas is a center, Vinny is a wing, but aside from that, they have a lot of the same characteristics. So it's in my opinion, you need that stuff to be successful. You need it in the playoffs, and you need it in the regular season too. So they've been great, and it's fun. It's they're not players that you want to play against, but they're certainly players that you want on your team.
Nick Nollenberger joining us. The Sharks trade deadline. Have you heard any rumblings of what might happen and how it could affect you or us?
It's interesting because go back 2 games, and the Sharks had lost 5 in a row. And the first game coming out of the Olympic break, they were taking on Calgary at home. Calgary is outside of the playoff picture, not going to make the playoffs, and they kind of laid a dud. And then they've got McDavid and the Oilers coming to town in a back-to-back situation. They've got a Winnipeg team. Although it's been a disappointing year for Winnipeg, they still have Connor Hellebuck, and they still have Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. They've got elite players on their team. The Sharks found a way to win back-to-back games. They won a kind of a wild one against Edmonton 5-4. They won a 2-1 comeback win in overtime against Winnipeg. So that kind of shifts where the team is at. I think fans and maybe management were starting to think, well, maybe we aren't going to make the playoffs. Maybe it's going to be a sell type mode. But you win 2 games, all of a sudden you're right back. I think they're within 3 points at the last wild card spot. So they're right back into it. They've got a big game against Montreal on Tuesday. So we'll see how things ultimately shake out. They've got to continue to win, but they come out of the break and it's a 6-game homestand, and it's critical that they take advantage of this time on home ice. But if they keep winning, I think Mike Greer owes it to the group to continue to try to add. They added Kiefer Sherwood before the Olympic break, a couple of second-round picks to Vancouver to get Sherwood, who's a hard-nosed forward who can score, but he can also agitate, can get under the skin. He plays with pace. So we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. But it certainly seems like if they continue to push for a playoff spot, that you've got to reward them and you've got to try to give them the best chance to get into the postseason. So if that is the case, then we're likely going to see a different approach. And does that mean a player leaves because you're adding? Maybe. We'll see. Other side, if you decide, hey, we're not going to make the postseason, and you start selling off some of these veteran guys, it probably would not impact us as much as if they are to decide to buy. So we'll see. Maybe they stay pat. Maybe they think this is going to be our team. Let's see if we can get into the playoffs with it. We'll just have to see how it shakes out. But it will be interesting without question.
Last question for you. Now, kind of turning to the AHL trade deadline, do you feel like Joe could be aggressive there?
Well, they've utilized it in the past. It's unique in, you're not acquiring NHL contracted players, so you've got a smaller pool of options. But you have seen teams add, and for the Barracuda, they got a big boost back in January because the Sharks acquired Laurent Brossoit and Nolan Allen from the Chicago Blackhawks. I know you're a Blackhawks fan, so you're probably familiar with those two. But Brossoit has played a lot in the NHL. He's played Stanley Cup games. He has a Stanley Cup ring with Vegas. Nolan Allen, a former number one draft choice, so there's some upside there. And those two have really boosted, I think, the Barracuda. You've gotten a number one goaltender in that situation, and Brossoit has taken over as that. And then Nolan Allen, I think, there's a lot of ability there. He's not an overly offensive guy from the blue line, but he's got a little bit of jam to his game. I think he skates well. He can make a good first pass. So those were two players acquired earlier this year, not an AHL deal, but I think they will look to potentially add to this group, understanding that there's so much value to be gained by having good playoff success, as we saw last year with the team getting out of the first round, and just how it impacted some of these players. So, the Sharks organization as a whole, they want to get their NHL team to the postseason if they can, but they really want to get their AHL team to have success because ultimately they're looking a couple of years down the road as Stanley Cup contenders. And to do so, they're going to need more young players to continue to infiltrate their lineup. And they believe playoff experience in the AHL, it translates to success in the NHL. And we've seen that with many organizations where teams go on runs in the AHL, and a couple of years later, you've got guys from those teams impacting NHL lineups. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they acquire a player or two via the AHL deadline, but you just never know because it's a smaller pool of options because you're looking at AHL contracted players.
Well, I appreciate your time. Good luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Malsey, thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Not a problem. Thank you so much. That's Coffee Talk with Nick Nollenberger, voice of the Barracuda. Again, Village Inn is the place to go on Wednesdays. You get a free slice of pie, of course, the fruit pie, and they've got some really good options for you. All you got to do is buy an item there, and you can get that free slice on Wednesdays. We'll talk to you again on the next edition of Coffee Talk.